The man behind what may be the largest pharmaceutical disaster in U.S. history will be sentenced today in court. Barry Cadden's compounding pharmacy produced tainted steroids that killed 64 people and made hundreds of others more sick. Mireya Villarreal is here with how the federal government who conducted the trial may have made a mistake. Mireya, good morning.
Good morning. Pharmacy owner Barry Cadden faces up to 35 years in prison for dozens of counts of racketeering and fraud. CBS News has learned a possible error could mean less time behind bars for the pharmacy executive.
They don't understand us.
Former New England Compounding Center owner Barry Cadden is seen on this internal video mocking state regulators.
How can they come in and inspect me? They don't even know what they're looking at. They have no clue.
The U.S. attorney charged him with mail fraud and racketeering, including acts of second-degree murder for sending hundreds of shipments of medicine manufactured in filthy conditions that ultimately killed dozens of patients.
Production and profit were prioritized over safety.
But at the end of his trial, a mixed verdict: guilty of fraud and racketeering, not guilty of murder. Victims' family members like Anita Baxter, whose mother Karina died after receiving a tainted injection, were crushed.
I really wanted him to be found guilty of the murder of at least one of the victims, even if it wasn't my mom. I had hoped he'd have at least one conviction for the murders.
Leaving the federal courthouse that day, Cadden let his lawyer do the talking.
It is a disgrace that he was charged with murder. It was unprovable, unwarranted, and unjustified, and we are deeply grateful that the jury saw it that way and vindicated Mr. Cadden on all 25 of the murder charges.
But CBS News has learned some of the jurors may have believed Cadden was guilty of murder. In a criminal case, all jurors must be unanimous on every charge. But according to these notations on the final verdict form in the Cadden case, released after the trial, jurors may have been split on all but 2 murder charges, most of them in favor of a guilty verdict.
The verdict form just has 2 places to check.
Former Boston federal judge Nancy Gertner has seen hundreds of final verdict forms, but never one like this.
What I would have expected to be done at that point is you take the verdict form, you show it to the lawyers, and you say, what would you like, what would your recommendation be?
If the jurors were split, they should have been sent back to deliberate until they reached a unanimous decision, but that never happened. The judge did not question the numbers on the form. The jury affirmed the verdict, and the case was closed.
We don't know what these numbers meant. These numbers could have been a preliminary vote. These numbers could have been a final vote. You don't know what they meant.
Leaving Anita Baxter and others still searching for answers.
Looking at these numbers, I would believe that the majority of the jurors felt that Cadden was guilty.
Finding Cadden guilty of her mother's murder would have exposed him to more time behind bars.
If 3/4 of the people believed that he was guilty of murdering my mom and the other victims, then how was he acquitted of these murder charges? It's an injustice.
Only the jury knows whether it intended to acquit Cadden of the 25 counts of second-degree murder. But once the jury is gone, the verdict is final. So even if it was a mistake, nothing can be done at this point. The judge told us he cannot comment on the trial because it is ongoing, but he has agreed to release the names of the jurors after the sentencing.
CBS has been covering this for a long time. It'll be interesting to see how it turns out.
He could have received life in prison if they had found him guilty of the murder counts, but now it's a completely different ballgame.
Yeah, and he asked for a new trial, too.
He did, and was denied last week, so very interesting day today.
Right, Mireya.
Thank you.